right, so Sense8 Season 2. We had the opportunity to watch it, and I guess the first thing to talk about is how it compares to Season 1. I always said that Season 1 was a very slow burn. It took a long time to do character development, probably like the first 8 episodes, but by the time everything hit the fan, it was worth every moment of that development because you cared so much about those characters. But then Season 2, it's like no time wasted. We're in the thick of it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also, too, because all of Season 1, you care about the characters. They did all that setup in Season 1, and now it was just full-on action. But it was very glorious. And there was still some very tender moments with character development here in Season 2 as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they didn't stop with the character development. They just had the action going along with it the whole time, too.
Yeah.
Which was
There were a few times where I got a little teary-eyed.
A few times.
It was good. A few times. Okay, yeah. A lot. A lot.
A lot. So if we take a look at the where they picked up, we had the Christmas special to kind of start things off, and a few things happened in there. We saw that Will and Riley are being hunted by Whispers. Will is in a very sympathetic position where he's taking heroin to block Whispers out of his mind the whole time, and Riley's caring for him. Oh my gosh.
And that's where it starts, right? That's where episode 1 immediately goes into.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And that's... Now, what I'm confused on, they weren't actually present together, or they were, and then they split up midway through. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Okay, and then Riley went off to Chicago later on by herself.
That's right. And it was like, yeah, but they were still together because they were in their minds anyway, because that's how they communicate. Yeah, it was good.
That sometimes confusion of whether they're there mentally or physically came into play in the last episode in like the coolest way possible.
Yeah, we won't spoil that, but like, holy shit, it was amazing.
Yeah, we're jumping ahead on that one for sure.
Yeah.
So Will and Riley, I absolutely adore them. And that one thing that we constantly talked about while we were watching is how much we love every single character. And not only every single character, but every single relationship that those characters have.
That's actually something that I really appreciated about the show is I feel like they specifically went out of their way to show healthy and differing relationships, for people who are, either homosexual or transgender or anything like that. They didn't paint it in any sort of dramatic way for the sake of, drama for the TV show, but they did a good job of showing like really loving, wonderful relationships for all of the characters, regardless of gender and things like that, which I really, really appreciated.
Yeah, I mean, even though they have everything kind of framed in this sci-fi fabric, and they're showing so many different types of relationships and families, and everything remains positive. They're positive relationships. The sexuality is positive the entire time. There's nothing that's put to shame in any way whatsoever. They never use labels for anything. It's just human nature. It's just the way they are.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think it's actually a super important message. And that's one of the reasons why I really, really like the show. And I feel that the show is it's a super important show that needs to be out there, and people need to see that, because you need to see that it's okay to be different. And they do that. They slide that dialogue into the show. Like there's a specific line where they say, we call him Whispers because that voice, that tells you to end it or give up or that you're horrible. It always whispers. And that was like, that's a direct statement about real life and not just a TV show. And they do that several times throughout the show, and specifically the season that oh my goodness, it got me so fired up in such a good way.
Yeah. And it gives Whispers so much more of a prominence and a direct metaphorical meaning in the show itself.
Yeah.
And the cluster
has that,
Oh, absolutely. The cluster is like a brain. And everyone represents different parts within that. And then
or different feelings or personalities or emotions. It's so good.
It reminds me a little bit of that old Fox show, Herman's Head. I don't know if you ever saw that. So it's a comedy. So it's not anything near this level. But there's the main character has like, it's almost like Inside Out in a way, where he has different people living inside his head that all represent different emotions and different sides of him. And the cluster is almost like an allegory for that.
Yeah.
where they're all very different. Like we talked several times about how Wolfie doesn't say a lot, but when you need someone to like,
but when he does, oh my God,
you listen and you pay attention. Yeah. It's so good.
Oh my God, that scene. Oh my God. They did such a good job. I know we're allowed to talk about all the spoilery stuff, but
right.
Oh my God. Anyway.
Well, one of the things that I do want to talk about right away, and it was one of my favorite moments in the entire season, and it happens during the first episode because it really set the tone for everything, and I thought it was so well done and so powerful, was the speech that Leto and the entire cluster eventually ends up giving when Leto and Capheus are asked who they are. And the quick edits and the jumps and the fluidity, the music, the beat of the music as they're all jumping from one thing to another was so powerful. And that was the same scene in which we heard that quote that labels are the opposite of understanding.
Yes. Oh my God. It was so good.
Oh, it just, I rewatched the scene even after we had watched the entire season, just because it was one of those things that went into me internally and just made me feel everything that they were trying to convey. And it was so well done and so powerful.
Yeah, I feel like if you had to describe this season in one phrase, it would either be, labels are the opposite of understanding, or it would be family is who you choose. You can choose your family and stuff like that. It's not necessarily who you're born with. So yeah, the season was good. Nailed it. Blew it out of the park. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. So the character stories, like we said, we had Will and Riley that were, they kind of seem to be the central driving force, because regardless of all the other side stories that were happening, that hunt and back and forth with Whispers was the constant thing that was underneath everything else.
Yeah, and that there was the main storyline there, and then also Sun's storyline was kind of felt like the main one,
Yep.
Those two, and then everybody else weaved in. I really liked the story they told with Leto, though.
That was fantastic. Yeah,
I wasn't expecting it, and I really appreciated that they told that story. And even Daniela, also, I appreciated her story too. There's like this point in his career where he comes out as a homosexual, and he gets completely dropped from his label. But then the LGBTQ community love him and have him come and speak, and it just, and then for him to come around and be okay with that, because it was just beautiful to watch. And Daniela saying my family is here. It's just, it was very powerful. I cried. It was amazing. And
rejecting her own family in the process. And this is my home.
Her own blood family.
Oh my God. That was huge. And that's something they don't talk about Daniela's sexuality really that much at all, because it's not overly important. But the fact that she does choose this new family, like you said, the family is the one that you choose over her blood family, can show that choice that some people have to make when their whatever it is about them is rejected by their family.
Yeah. It was super, super powerful. And also just I really appreciate that relationship in general. Because I feel like the show goes out of their way to show, hey, relationships can be different. Not every family is the same. Not every relationship is the same. Sometimes you have three people in a relationship in the way that they are, it's just a very loving. Yeah, I love them. Yeah. I love them so much.
One thing we said constantly, too, was Leto was constantly beating himself up throughout the whole time. He was constantly double thinking all of his decisions and wondering if he was doing the right thing. He was very hesitant to make the speech at the Pride Parade. And we were like, come on, just put the spin on it. Go to Hollywood, make the change.
Yeah, do it. Yeah.
Which is funny because it's what he ultimately ends up doing, is all the things that were. Now, I'm wondering if you thought the pacing of that was a little too long, because we were like, come on, just do it. Or if it was just really to kind of show the internal struggle over time.
I wasn't really expecting them to actually do it. I wasn't expecting him to take a spin on it. But if you look at Leto and who he is as a character, he doesn't really think that way. He wouldn't think to say, oh, I'm going to take a spin on it and I'm going to go to Hollywood because they'll accept me because, the press will eat up the fact that you shamed me for being who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he thinks that way. And so that way it was super accurate, but it also allowed us to see a little bit more of how Daniela reacts to him and really cares for him and his mental state, and Hernando as well. And just their dynamic. It allowed that to grow a little bit while they kind of, it showed how that scene where they're watching the movie and they kind of like try to manipulate him into feeling, feeling things. Like, it was so good. And it just shows that they, not only do they know him, both of them know him very well, but they care about him and they want to see him not only succeed, but they want to see him be happy, which I think is not something that you see a lot in TV shows. I think you see characters supporting each other to keep the story going and not because they want the character to be in a good place. And it doesn't matter where his career is, at least as far as we know. Right. So for them to continue to support him and for them to dedicate screen time to that is just, it's beautiful. It just shows that they want him to be happy.
For sure. And without giving it away, we should say that there is an epic scene with Daniela and a couple cell phones that when you see it will just blow your mind.
It's so good. She's amazing. I wonder, I did wonder after that scene, after that, if that's written from experience in Hollywood or not. I wondered. I thought to myself, is this written from like a reality perspective? But yeah, it was good. The whole thing was good.
It was kind of the wheeling and dealing that you see Hollywood portrayed as all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you always wonder how much that is the actual case when things are happening.
There's so much honesty in the show.
Yeah.
I assume that it at least is a little bit. I imagine they probably made it a little bit more comedic. But yeah, it does seem pretty real.
Yeah. So that storyline was absolutely amazing. We had the storyline. Now we praise a lot of the things in the show. The storyline that probably got us the most frustrated was the Kala and Rajan storyline. Because at least for me, she's the toughest character to relate to because she's so flip-floppy.
Yeah.
And I think
she's, I don't know. I also find that she's the most, I don't want to say selfish, but that's the only way that I can describe it, unfortunately, character of them all. I try to understand, but maybe this is because I don't come from a culture that, does arranged marriages. So I don't understand that sense of familiar obligation or duty that I have to fulfill in that way. So I feel like, I get a little bit confused by that. And it takes her a while to kind of come around to herself. I do like, however, how she was constantly seeming to battle this season about what a good person and a bad person is and what it means and what she's trying to define herself and label herself. And a couple of times it comes up that, what does it matter? What is good or, what is bad? Or if this is that, then that's what I want type of thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, she has a lot of...
not to talk about this and spoil it. So difficult.
She has a lot of societal expectations versus what she actually wants and what she thinks will make her happy.
Yeah, I also think she's the most naive character on the show.
Oh, for sure.
Other than maybe Leto, but he's naive in an adorable way. Yeah. And like when he realizes something is happening, he usually is like, oh shit, okay, this is it.
Oh, yeah. Well, everything Leto does is adorable, even when he's a drama queen, especially when he's a drama queen.
So good. He's so dramatic. Oh, God. I love it. He's so good.
And I know one of your characters you really enjoy is Wolfie. And
yeah, I do.
And the screen presence he has and everything it's awesome.
It's out of this world. It's wild. Yeah. I also really like Wolfie because I feel like he's a character that, looking at everybody else in the show, he probably would most relate to Sun, actually. But because they're so similar, they don't really talk that much. I just feel like he must feel like an outsider sometimes watching this, or an older brother. So I kind of feel like it's either going to be that way. Like he feels like a protector of the pack type thing. But yeah, he intrigues me quite a bit. I can't wait to see where they actually take his character.
I like with him that they are even though he might feel like the outsider, he's not hanging on the outside necessarily.
Yeah.
He's always involved. He's always there. He clearly cares about these people. It would have been so
Yes.
easy to go with the common trope of the outsider.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't merge. I just don't want anything
I
to do
don't
with
need
any of
you
this.
guys.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm a lone wolf. But that's not this show. It's
Yeah.
just not.
Yeah. He's a lone wolf, but he's also a loyal wolf, you know? He's like, this is my pack and, you know, I'm going to take care of them type thing. Yeah, he's a very, very interesting character.
And his storyline was probably the most confusing for me because I didn't necessarily remember where it had. I mean, it's been a while since season 1 aired.
Yeah.
It's almost 2 years. But I didn't necessarily remember where his storyline left off and where they were picking up. He was involved with some mobsters. And I guess the big thing with his storyline, though, was the inclusion of Leela, the new character, and the new
character,
temptation for him.
Yeah. And the new am I allowed to say?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
we
can
can
spoil whatever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's got the whole new clan and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a term for it that they use in the show. And it's not clan. Cluster. Thank you. Yeah. It's the whole new cluster there. So that's super exciting. I also just really liked how this season they really explored the idea of a new cluster and watching someone else in the cluster interact with someone in their head when they couldn't see them. So they did a lot of that this season where it was like, oh, they're here with you? Okay, well, what are they saying? And just kind of like this. It just shows them as characters stretching their abilities to be able to do that, or also trusting the audience to be able to follow what's happening and who can see what and get what information. And they didn't dumb it down at all. It was great. I really enjoyed that. Even a couple of times we were like, wait, what just happened to this thing? But we were able to figure it out. I'm glad that they didn't spell it out for us like a lot of shows are doing.
It does at times get a little vague with the way that it all works. And if you were really to nitpick the series and say like, okay, well, this person's touching this thing over here and affecting this thing over here, but they're not in this other person's body present right now, and they're not actually. So you could, but it never really goes to a level where you're like, it's affecting anything major, so it's not a big deal.
There was only one instance of that actually, and that's during Sun's scene, you know, in the jail, the prison, when someone tosses her something. I'm not going to say what it is, but somebody tosses her something and she catches it and then turns around and does something with it. And I'm like, wait a second, she's actually the only person there. So did everybody else who's there just see her toss herself some keys? Like, I don't know what just happened. But I was able to obviously let that go and keep going with the show. But a couple of times they did that where I was like, wait, what just, you know, she's in a weird position. How is she able to do this type thing? So
there are a few places where they do a quick cut just to let you know that person's actually there.
Yeah.
They don't do it every time, but it's enough that you just kind of go with it, I think.
Yeah.
So speaking of Sun, though, she had a huge arc this season, and it was all about breaking out of jail where we last left her, and she's gunning for her brother now that she knows that he killed their father.
I fucking love her. She's great. She's just like such a strong and driven character and also silent, you know? And I just don't... the show is so good at showing different people and how each one of those people can be a hero. And I love that because I feel like you see the same type of heroes over and over again on TV. And they do a great job, and I adore her. I really liked her arc. The detective that comes in, I enjoyed that scene where she has to face him and like kind of go through her mental hoops to kind of like figure out if she's still on the right track or not. I really enjoyed that. Introduction of that character into her storyline. I thought that was very, very cool.
I did not expect them to take his character in the direction that they did at all. I thought he was just going to be after her.
Yep, I thought so too. But that's Sense8, right? They don't follow the standard. They're like, oh, you know what? You brought this up during the show. You said what's so good about the show is that even side characters are super relatable and developed, and you get attached to them. Like, I don't remember her name, but the old woman who helps Sun.
Oh, she was awesome.
Like, she's so good. She delivered a line that had me with tears welling up in my eyes because I was so attached to like the emotion that she gave to it. And they don't have a character in there just to move the story along. Mm-hmm. They flesh everybody out. It's great. It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, Hernando, Daniela, Felix. Yeah. Felix is awesome. Bug, we talked about a lot this season.
Yeah.
Bug is
was really
great
funny
this season. The fact that Bug is a huge Leto fan and freaks out when he finds out Leto's in the cluster. Oh
God, he has a heart attack. Oh, it's so good.
Bug's so lovable.
Yeah, and though we did see this season, Cathius, the original actor, depart from the show. Mm-hmm. So we had an episode or two to get used to the new actor, but I found it was very easy, actually. I think he did a really amazing job. And I really love what they did with his storyline. I wasn't expecting that either. That's another one that just kind of surprised me.
At first, I had a harder time with Cathius just because he had a harder presence than the older actor. The older actor, even just physically, had a softer look, and it made him seem more childlike. Yeah. But I think the direction they took Cathius's character suits this new actor really well. Yeah.
I also think that it's like, man, that must be so difficult. Sliding into a role that's already defined. Actually, you probably will touch on that at some point, right?
That was one of the questions I had lined up for that actor, but unfortunately I didn't get the opportunity.
Oh, man, I'd like to know how that went down. But yeah, I that must be so difficult, sliding into a role that's already defined and then trying to make it your own, and then also not letting anybody down, and then also knowing which direction it's going to go in. But I think he did a great job. Yeah. I really like what they did with his storyline.
And they played it off really well in the Christmas special when they introduced him, because they have him right before he turns around. His friend that's on the van with him all the time is like, "Oh, you got a haircut. It makes your whole face look different." And it was a really nice, lighthearted way to be like, yeah, okay, we get it. This is a thing that happened. Let's go. Let's not waste any time. We're moving the story forward. But that was a really nice way to introduce him.
It was really good.
But his story, again, something completely unexpected, where his popularity in his country and is taking him to a political arena. I never saw Cathius going that way.
Yeah, me either. But you know what? He does care, and he does want to make a difference.
He does.
And I think it was his hesitation was natural, and then eventually sliding into it. I just don't, now that I've seen the season, I just don't see him going in any other way.
Yeah.
Because he cared so much and they did it so well. But yeah. Oh, what I didn't expect though was oh shoot, I forget.
I know where you're going.
His mom with dating that guy. Oh my God, I was so shocked. And for it not to be a joke, I thought it was going to be like a trick or something, or some way for him to have Cathius in his back pocket, but it wasn't. It was real.
Completely sincere.
Yeah, and that kind of touched me too. Oh.
Even though the whole time you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing dating him?
Yeah. I was like, no. But then, yep.
And Cathius's story, out of all of them, relates to what you said before the most, I think, illustrating that anyone can become a hero. He was a bus driver that they plucked out of his moment of heroism and made him into a larger than life figure, and now a leader. From that. And I think it also goes along with kind of the idea of the cluster, that not only can everyone become a hero, but everybody has something different to offer.
Yes.
So when you look like Sun is going to go and whoop everyone's ass, and so is Wolfie. Yeah. But then you go, well, what's Kala going to do in a situation like this? Well, not this situation necessarily, but who do they look to for the replicating the blockers? Kala, that's her thing. They all have something to contribute.
And or that one scene when Sun suddenly gets thrown into, having to, be a bartender. They're like, nobody knows how to do that. And then Leto's like, I studied it for, 6 months intensive training. So I make the best drinks in Sao Paulo or wherever it was that he was referencing that he had it. But yeah, it was very, very good.
And he brings it up in the best possible way mid drama queening.
He's just like, he's like, oh, but that's such an important moment too, because he's mid drama queening about losing, his dream. And so then it's like, well, nobody knows how to do this. It's immediately like Leto just gets to be like, I do, because like I studied it and I did a thing. And it came up out in just the most beautiful way. It was great.
And it didn't even dawn on me until we were just talking about it right now. But before he like reveals that he has all this bartender experience, they have two of the characters talking. It was Sun and Will. I don't even remember who the conversation was going on between.
Nomi.
Oh,
Will,
okay. Sun and Nomi.
Sun and Nomi, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Leto's there, and they're like, "Wait, why is Leto here?" As if the cluster's mentality knows that he is needed in that moment.
Yeah.
But they don't know why yet. And that also is like a metaphor. So like, why are these people in your life? Well, they have something to offer. Maybe you just don't know what it is yet. Yeah.
That's actually really beautiful. That's not what I would have expected at all from that scene. I just thought that Leto was hanging around because he was depressed. But I actually think that's much more beautiful, just the idea that. And I do believe that actually when people come into your life that there is something that you can offer each other, you can either learn or, there's love or, something that you can offer somebody. And it doesn't have to be romantic love. It can just be, but yeah, I do feel that that's true. So that's a super beautiful way to look at that.
Who are we not talking? Oh, Nomi and Amanita.
No,
and
oh
Bug,
my God.
Of course.
Oh my God.
You gonna start crying already?
I am gonna start crying. It was like, oh my God. It was super beautiful. Mm-hmm. I had one complaint. And that is that I suffered a lot of social embarrassment and anxiety on behalf of Nomi this season. Mostly because in a couple of situations, she's like, oh yeah, my family thinks I'm a narcissist and that I'll turn everything around to being about me. And then a couple of times she does do that thing. And I'm just like, oh no, please don't. But then all of that is completely erased by that like end scene that her and I will not say another word about it, but
not that one. Nope.
Yeah, no, not
good.
That one. Yeah,
too good. Yeah. But yeah, they had a fantastic arc this season, going through, and they're another one that's also being hunted in the same way that Will and Riley are being hunted. Not necessarily for the same reason either, because Nomi is wanted by the FBI for all the computer stuff, and they go through the whole thing with Bug. Bug's with them the whole season, pretty much.
Yeah, I love Bug.
I wasn't sure.
And that's the thing. Like, is there any character in the show that got introduced that we're not like, oh, I love this character? I don't think that there is.
There's a couple that I don't necessarily like, but I'm not supposed to. There's that blonde hair guy that's always hitting on Riley.
Oh, yeah, but he's hilarious. I know that you're not supposed to like him,
but he is
he's
funny.
A unique person, and he's funny to like when he's interacting, and it's good. They play against him very well, but yeah, I'm trying to think right now if there's a character that got introduced that I didn't really enjoy. Oh, you know who I did really enjoy? And I'm going to kick myself because I forget her name, but Capheus's has somebody that's introduced into his storyline too. Yes, I did. I wasn't sure if her, she's fantastic. And I just have to say, she says one of my favorite lines in the entire show. And I cried when she said this line because I don't see bi erasure is a thing and I don't see it a lot on television. And she has a line where, Capheus some guys tease Capheus and say, oh, she's not interested in men, Capheus, so you're chasing her for no reason. Because in college she was with a woman and at some point Capheus brings it up to her and she says, oh, I fall in love with a person, not their genitals. And I just started crying. I was like, oh my God, now they've represented everybody in the show.
And that's that's how they represent everyone too. Like we said, she doesn't come out and say, oh, I'm bisexual, because that would put a label on it. She just says, says how she feels and what she does and how she loves people. And that's all it needs to be. That's it.
Oh God, stop.
It's done so well. And they talked in the interviews we heard before this.
Yeah.
They talked a little bit about why the series is so important right now, and
yes,
and
it's so
why
important right now.
Not only right now, but the fact that they this was 2 years ago where season 1 ended, and they were already working on season 2.
Yeah.
Not only filming but writing and all that stuff. They didn't see what was coming for the world, and it could not be more relevant now.
I know. It's wonderful that it's horrible that it's so needed right now, but it's wonderful that we have it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those shows I feel like everybody should watch, and especially young teenagers who might be confused or upset or hurting very badly and need to know that it's okay to be different, and that there's still love out in the world for you, and there is a cluster that you can find or make, that alone is a message that, I feel like everybody should have that.
Absolutely.
I wish I had that in high school.
Right? Don't we all?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, aside from a few characters that don't understand the choices of others, everyone's very welcoming.
Yeah. But I feel like those characters that don't understand the choices of others are there to show you that, yes, you are going to run into people like this. You're going to run into people like Nomi's mom. Oh,
Nomi's mom. I can't handle her. I don't understand.
I've met people like that, though. So it's true. Like, it's not just there to be an antagonist for Nomi. Like, people like that exist. So it's just like, I just think it's super, super wonderful that they include them to show you, hey, this can happen, but you know what? It can be healthy. It can be beautiful. There is positivity. It gets better. That whole message is all throughout the season. Or the entire show, but specifically this season. It's very, very good.
And I think they even represent 3 different viewpoints within Nomi's family. They have her mom, who's very rejectful of the entire concept. They have her sister, who's very inviting and welcoming. And they have her dad, who's kind of that middle ground where he's like, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this.
But I love you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think those were all very important things to show, because all those perspectives for sure exist.
Yeah. And Nomi's sister wasn't always on board.
That's true.
I like that they showed that too, that Nomi's sister was confused and upset and trying to understand and like, why is this important to you? You don't need this. And then in the end decided that how she felt about it wasn't as important as how her sister feels about it, how Nomi feels about it. And then, made the decision to be there, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you talked about a lot in the show that you can speak on much more than I is the music choices and the tones that they were set. Fire. So if there's anything you want to say about the music, go right ahead.
It was good. I cannot wait to see the blog lists that are like, soundtrack to. I should do it. My blog would go off the charts. I'm telling you, the music was really, really good. It was well done. Everything was picked beautifully. I recognized most of it. I think there was only one song that I didn't recognize, but I as soon as it started, I'd go, this is perfect for this moment. So it was very, very good. It was very good.
The thing that I noticed the most with the music is, I know it stood out more in the example that I gave already, where the beats of the song really coincided with the montage. And they do that several times throughout the show, where it's not just background music, it's not just tone. The beats and the vibe of the music is actually going along with the visual.
Yeah. Did you happen to ask if they had planned? I don't know if they would have known the answer to that if they were able to plan along ahead, because I feel like they must have known what they were going to play or something. Because they timed it with the beat. Yeah, they had to have.
It was too much of like a music video. The sound
person is just a fucking brilliant. I know, it was. It was like each episode had a music video in it. It was great. It was so good.
And it wasn't anything like pulling you out like, oh, here comes the...
No.
it just flowed through it so well. Yes. 100%.
Actually, that's something that you and I both mentioned a lot during this show, or the season, was the way they were cutting and how very purposefully everything felt. It was like a 12-episode movie. I don't even know how many episodes we watched because we binged it. But
yeah. It was, the Christmas special would have been episode 1. So we ended up watching 9. We watched 2 through
9.
11.
So,
or 10. 10. I can math.
Yeah. But yeah, that was crazy. It was like a 10 episode movie. It was very well done. Everything was super. They didn't make any sacrifices or anything like that. It was super, super beautiful. And holy cow, from a photographer's perspective, the cinematography in this season, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
It's not often that I sit there and go, man, I wish I could be there photographing this moment. I don't normally do that, but I did that like 4 or 5 times during this season. It was very, very good.
Well, I know there was an on-set photographer, and I do have some of the production stills that were captured on set, not only of just shots of the scene of what would be in the show, but there is some behind-the-scenes stuff that's also very cool. And I mean, we have to remember that this is a Wachowski's production.
Yes, yeah.
And visually, they've always been amazing. Now, granted, this is Lana. Lana's the focus this season. Her sister left.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it is just Lana working on this one. But
it's so strong.
Yeah, even with just her there, she's definitely stepped up her game, because I would say overall this season is stronger than the first.
You think so?
I do, because not only they have all that great character development, but the pacing really hurts season 1. I think I was fine with it, but I think there's a lot of people that are not in for that kind of a commitment. And if they're really not hooked within the first 3 episodes because they feel it's going slow, they might bail.
Yeah, that's true. Most people are like that. I feel like I appreciated in season 1 that they took their time. But yeah, a lot of people need something a little bit faster paced. Man, this season won't disappoint you.
No.
Yeah, it's like very nonstop. It was so good. And there were some scenes in this season that were very much Lana, I guess, since it was her doing it, but some signature scenes that they do, and I was like, oh man, yeah, this is definitely them. So that was good. Very enjoyable.
It definitely still has their fingerprint on it for sure.
Yeah.
Even still, the storyline that we have talked about the least is probably still Will and Riley.
Yes.
And not only the Whispers thing, but there's a lot of exploration into Angelica specifically and BPO and the organization and what its purpose is, which we still don't even completely know.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was just about to say I don't really like Angelica that much because she seems not necessarily underdeveloped. I'm sure she has a story. We just don't know it yet. But I just didn't really, I don't know, something about her, it just wasn't very memorable to me. However, this season, they did a very good job showing it would have been so easy to just make her cardboard cutout bad guy, you know?
They could have gone that way.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
But they didn't. They were like, this is somebody who, has feelings and who cares about these people and still made the decision that she thought was the right one. And yeah, it makes her a far more interesting character to me than just leaving it as just somebody who's swapped sides and become a bad guy, type thing.
Yeah. And even though Whispers is for sure painted the most villainous of all the characters, even he has a family that we see.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. They do such a good job. Now, there is a scene with Will that left me pretty speechless that I feel like we should just mention because we were both floored by his performance. We won't go like spoil, but yeah, there's just a very intense moment for Will and his character development that I really liked. The only thing that I didn't like is that afterwards it felt a bit either rushed or something just wasn't there enough for why he was kind of out of his headspace. And,
Sure.
Yeah, it felt a little bit strange to me, but his performance during that scene was out of this world.
Although Will is a cop and he's been trained to put his emotions aside. And when he is kind of the leader of the cluster. So
I've noticed that.
When things really need to get done, he's like, okay, I gotta just deal with this. And Whispers is going after him. So the threat is even more real to him than anyone else. Yeah.
And Riley. He threatens Riley's safety a couple of times, which I love them. I love Will and Riley. They were interested, they had that spark in the very beginning. And I really like that they didn't just like draw it out for the sake of drawing it out for a couple of seasons. They just let it happen right away. And I love that every relationship, friendship in the show is just like super, super supportive and healthy.
I really enjoyed the series of events where Riley meets Diego, Will's partner, and goes back to Chicago. I just like the idea of them seeing in real life each other's natural environments.
Yeah, and that happens with Nomi obviously knows everybody, but there is a scene where I think they see each other on the phone or something. I just forget who it was with. Hold on. My brain. Is it Amanita? I think it's Amanita, where she sees Riley for the first time, and she's like, "Riley, oh my god!"
On the video, yeah,
and then they can.
That's right, because they were only voices in her head until that, but now there's a face.
Yeah, and so it's really neat for them to slowly start seeing that, seeing each other and other people in the cluster and stuff. They did a lot of that this season. Also, didn't they do something with their abilities either getting stronger? Because before they had no control over when they appeared. And this time it seemed like they could specifically appear to somebody and be like, hey, I need your help, or... Oh, yeah, yeah,
for sure. Yeah, the first season they were coming to terms with what was happening, and they didn't even know. They were like, whoa, why am I in another country all of a sudden? And now they know how to actually visit each other. And really, we saw the amount of body swapping. They don't really have a term for it when they blend their consciousness and kind of control someone else's body. That was so fluid through so many of these things. You would just see another character really quick, and then they would jump back just to let you know that character was in that body, and it was done amazingly.
Oh, man. That scene with Sun and Leto, that was really good. And that's not too spoilery, so I'm going to talk about that for a second because it floored me. So like there's a moment in the season where Leto is auditioning for a role, and Sun needs his help right before that, and he almost botches the audition because during that moment he decides to help Sun instead of giving his all to the audition, and then he auditions, and the director or the casting director is not happy with the performance, and then Sun takes over and is just honest and herself, and they love it. And it's just something I would not have expected them to do. And it showed that, because Sun is usually portrayed as like trying to keep all of her emotions inside and, again, like this kind of lone wolf and this warrior type character, but she is very emotional. And to just kind of have that moment where not only does she show that emotion, but she chooses to show it to help someone else, which I thought was really, really beautiful moment. It was really good.
She did it in a very Sun way. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't anything crazy. It was simple. Just the right amount for her. Yeah. Oh,
it was so good.
Other memorable moments from the season for me, I mean, really just anytime the cluster is together. I love the shots. And they had so many fantastic transitions and effects. They would have moments where one of the characters in the cluster would walk by, and then as they were going across, they were almost like revealing the mask of the characters behind them or then coming all back together in one, just kind of reinforcing that idea that we are one, all of them together.
It was a very, like, everything was on point this season. The music, the visuals, the everything. I mean, the acting, obviously, everything was just really, really good. It was very well done. There's just not much that I can say that didn't stand out to me. Everything was great.
I know there was, and I guess maybe we should touch on this as we're kind of leaving the episode, but the chance of season 2 even happening, I guess, was pretty slim.
Really?
Which is unfortunate. And it's one of the reasons that I want to get the word out about this show, because, like we've said so many times, it is such an important show for the world we live in now, just in general, but especially now that this show needs to continue. Not only because I need to see where it's going, because it's just so good. And they left with a fantastic cliffhanger and the introduction of a new mystery character within the season.
They did.
And I have to know where that's going.
Do you think it's the sex that turns people off of the show?
I think that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it definitely narrows the audience.
Yeah.
Because there are people that just don't want to see shows with nudity at all.
Yeah.
But then you have something like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's definitely more accepted now. And I'm wondering if the popularity, because season 1 at this point now, we're talking 2 years ago, with Game of Thrones having exploded the way it has, and that having huge elements of sexuality. I'm hoping maybe that makes this more acceptable for those people that did
help.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just trying to wondering what about the show would pull people away from it, because it just seems so amazing. It must be maybe exposure. But yeah, definitely get the word out there, because it's a show worth watching. It's a show worth sharing, really, and watching with your friends.
Even if you're just a sci-fi fan, like we're talking about all the themes and the messages and stuff, but even just from a purely sci-fi show, it's great.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we should wrap that up. I mean, we've just the season's been amazing. I mean, the final review, no complaints whatsoever. Well worth watching.
We'll watch again.
Yeah, we'll watch again for sure. So, what can we put out there for you? Where can people watch you online? All the time we do this. You're a guest here.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you. Well, my Twitter is twitter.com/Pumpkinberry. And you can also, my website is pumpkinberry.tv. Those are 2 ways you can reach out to me.
Fantastic. And of course, you can see all our stuff on thegeekgeneration.com and watch us on twitch.tv/thegeekgeneration and all the social medias. They know this stuff from me already.
They know that.
They know it all. Thank you so much.
And the Twitter is Geek Generation. You guys got it.
There you go.
I got you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, we'll just plug each other's stuff from now on. It's a little less awkward, right?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, 100%.
All right, thanks for watching the show with me and hanging out. And
thank you. This was super lovely. I loved it. And thanks everybody for listening.
And we'll see you guys next time. Later.
Make it so.